Hey guys, my name is Mr. Gordon, and I'll be helping you guys factor using GCF. Factoring in GCF is a big part of Algebra 1, and we normally start at GCF because it is a foundational factoring skill that you might use later on in your mathematics career. GCF, if you're not already familiar with, stands for greatest common factor. Anytime you have a GCF factoring question, you should always be asking yourself, what is the largest term that can divide each term in the expression? And we'll see a little bit more of what that means later on. Like I said, this is the foundational skill that you might need later on. A lot of times in other videos, you'll be able to see GCF is a foundational factoring tool that you'll be able to use, and you'll be able to combine them with a lot of other factoring methods that you have, but you should always check for GCF first. So this skill will help you 10 times over in some of the other videos. So in this example that we have here, we're asked to find the GCF between two numbers, 12 and 18. So the first thing that we have to do is find the factors of 12 and 18. So I'm going to put 12 here. I'm going to put 18 down here in blue. And then here, we're just listing out the factors. And the factors are really just the numbers that when multiplied, or we can say also the integers that can be divided by 12. So I always tell my students to start with the easiest ones, or the easiest pair, which would be 1 and the number itself. So here we have 1 and 12. Next, all I'm going to do is try to close in the gap. So here I'm asking myself, can 2 divide 12? The answer is yes. So we have 2 and 6. We have the same thing with 3 and 4. And we see here that we close in the gap. There's nothing else. So here, and let me just put this comma here, are the factors of 12. Now we're going to do the same thing with 18. So I have 1 and 18. Those are the easiest two to start with. Closing it in with 2 and 9, 3 and 6. And if you try it, we wouldn't be able to divide evenly with 4 or 5. And that'll close in the gap here. So these are all of the factors of 18. So now we're looking here. There are a lot of common factors. We have 1, 2, 3, and 6. But there's only one greatest common factor. So out of all the common factors that I just circled, we can see without a doubt that 6 is our greatest common factor. Now I'm actually going to copy this because it'll help us with our next example that we have. So if we have a question like this looks like a little bit more of what you might see on an exam or in your classes. And we have 12x plus 18. Now, the question will probably say just factor completely or factor, whatever the case may be, but I always want to start with my numbers first. In this case, we have an x, which we didn't see in the other example, but there's no x here. And because there's no x here, I don't even want to worry about it because we're always looking for common factors. If they don't share the same letter, the same variable, we don't have to look at it. So here our GCF is simply going to be 6. So whenever we're factoring, I want to put the number on the outside, my GCF, which is 6. And then I want to immediately just start opening some parentheses. Now, next, what I want to do, I want to just copy my original expression down. Let's close that parenthesis. I'm going to divide each term by the GCF that's on the outside. So that purple number 6 is what I'm going to divide each term by. Do you have to show your work like this? No, but it makes it a little bit easier to see what's going on as you're factoring. So here, now all we have to do is divide. I'm actually going to bring this down, draw an arrow. So I'm going to keep my GCF on the outside. I'm going to open up my parentheses again, and then I'm just going to simplify. We have 12 divided by 6, which is going to be 2. Nothing's going on with the x, so I'm just going to bring that down. I'm going to make sure that I bring down my operation, my plus sign. And then I'm going to do 18 divided by 6, which is going to be 3. And here we have it. We just factored an expression. Okay. And we know we did this correctly because if we were to try to find the GCF of 2 and 3, we will find that the largest GCF is 1. And if the largest GCF is 1, we did our job. Okay. So number 2 is a little different because now we see that we have variables being shared. We have the same variable in each term. And here I put that the lowest exponent always wins. Now, simply what that means is, actually, before we even get there, let's do our numbers first. I'm going to do 8, and then I'm going to do 16. And I'm not going to worry about the negative sign at all. I'm just going to find the factors just like how we did with 12 and 18 on this side. So 8
I'm going to have 1. I'm going to start with 1 and 8. I'm going to close in my gap little by little, 2 and 4, and then there's nothing in between. So I'm just going to close that gap. These are our factors for 8. And for 16, we have 1 and 16. We have 2 and 8. And then we know 4 times 4 is 16 as well. So I'm just going to put that in the middle. No need to write that twice.
So these are our factors. And it will be a little bit smarter to work from right to left to find that GCF. And we can see here that it'll be 8. So I'm going to write the 8 over here. But going back to my variables, the lowest exponent always wins. All we're doing is asking ourselves which one's lower, 3 or 2. And obviously we should be saying 2. So my GCF here would be 8y to the second power. Again, the one with the lowest exponent is always winning, okay? Everything else from here is going to be the same as before, so I'm actually going to copy this down. I'm going to bring this down. Actually, let me move this whole thing down so we have some space. And again, we're going to divide each of my terms by our GCF that's on the outside, which is going to be 8y squared and an 8y squared here. If you know anything about dividing monomials, we're going to do the numbers first or the coefficients first, and then we're going to work with our variables second. So I'm going to keep my GCF on the outside, open parentheses. I'm going to do 8 divided by 8, which is 1. So we don't really have to do anything there. When we see the same thing on the numerator and denominator, you can write the 1, but you don't really need to. Next, we have the same variable. So we have the same letter. They just have different exponents. Now, when we have something like that, you're going to just subtract the exponent. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Again, you don't have to put the 1 there. That's usually an invisible exponent, I like to call it. So we don't have to put that there. I'm going to bring down my minus sign. And then I'm going to do 16 divided by 8, which is going to get us a 2. And then here we see that we have the same thing in our numerator and denominator. So just like we did with the 8, I'm just going to cross this out. Let me put that in red. Because that divides to 1, and we know that we don't really have to put the 1 there. Close parentheses. Boom, we are finished. So let's just box our answers. We're done. For number 3, we're going to apply the same tip that we did here for this one. So if you want to pause the video where it's at right now, try it and then check later, you can, or speed it up, you can, but I'm going to go through it just like I did the other ones. I'm going to have my 45 here and my 15 down here. 45 is going to be 1, 3, 5, 9, 15, and 45. And 15 is going to be 1, 3, 5, 15. We should see that our GCF is going to be a 15. And then if I'm just checking my exponents, and I'm actually going to put that 1 there, that invisible 1, just to make it easier to see. And we can see here that I'm going to take the one with the lowest exponent, which is a to the first power. Then I'm going to open up some parentheses and copy my original down. And right away, I'm going to divide each one by the GCF that we just found. Let's draw our arrow, crush this one. So we have 15A. I'm going to work with my coefficients first. So 45 divided by 15 is going to be 3. Then we have 2 minus 1, which is going to get us a 1. And again, we don't have to put that exponent there. Bring down my plus. Then we're going to do 15A divided by 15A. Again, when we see the same thing in the numerator and denominator, we're just going to cross that out. And it divides to 1. And there we have it. And another trick, just to check, if I were to multiply this out, if I were to distribute this, 15A back to 3A and 1, it should get us our original. So that's one way to check, and that's a very important way to be able to check your answers. For 4, let's see. I have a number that's missing. Let's make this a 20. So again, we're going to do the same thing. And we notice here that we have two different variables. We have an A and a B. But this trick still stands. This trick still stands. So these are the factors that we should have, and we should know that our GCF is going to be that 2. I'm going to put the 2 on the outside right here. And then I'm going to be checking my variables. So first, let me copy this first because I know I'm going to need it later. I have my A's and I have my B's. So in all of this, and I'm actually going to put my invisible exponents. The invisible exponent is just a 1. And we know that the lowest exponent always wins. So I'm just going to take the lowest exponent out of the A's and the lowest exponents out of the B's. We should see that this is the lowest of the A's and this is the lowest of the B's. And I'm just going to add that on. Let me just shift this over. So we should have 2A, B. Open up my parentheses. Let's move this up. I'm dividing each term by my GCF. And just for good practice, I'm just going to line up everything so it would be easier for me to see what I'm dividing. And I'm going to put those invisible exponents wherever it's needed. Okay, so let's divide. We should be pretty comfortable with that at this point. So I have 18 divided by 2, which is going to get us a 9. Again, if the numbers are going to match, all we have to do is work with the exponents. So we have 2 minus 1, which is going to get us that 1. Again, it's optional for us to put it. And then we see we have the same thing. We have a B in the numerator, a B in the denominator. So of course, I'm going to cross that out because that divides to 1. Next, I'm going to bring down my subtraction sign. We have 20 divided by 2, which is going to get us a 10. Again, just like with this one, we see that we have the same thing in our numerator and denominator. I'm going to cross that out. That divides to 1 as well. And then we have a b squared divided by b. Again, we're just focusing on those exponents. So 2 minus 1 would just get us a b to the first power. And there we have it. Again, if I were to distribute this 2ab back out to each of my terms in the parentheses, we would get back to our original. Again, that's another way to check. So I have three other problems here. If you want to pause this video now and try it on your own and come back, that's fine. If not, I'm going to work on them. This one, we have 3 terms, but the process is really the same. So after this video, we should be very comfortable with working with GCF at this point. Actually, let me use just nice green for this one. So 18, I'm going to go through it really quick. And we actually used 18. So a lot of these questions, the more you see it, the easier it becomes. Again, we have our GCF. Now we're just looking at our exponents. We have an X and we have a Y. So with our X's, I'm looking for the one with the lowest exponent, and that one is going to be this X right here. Then we're going to look at our Y's, and we should see that the Y with the lowest exponent is this one right here, this Y to the first power. So our GCF is going to be 6. Let me take a look. 6xy. Open up parentheses. Let me just copy this down. All right, I copied it down. Now all I'm doing is dividing each one by 6xy. I'm actually going to take the lazy way out and just copy that over. All right, so I set it up for you guys. I brought down my GCF, all I'm doing is dividing. So I'm going to do 16. I'm going to do 18 divided by 6, which is going to get us to 3. Again, we have the same variable, or we have the same letter. So all I'm doing is focusing on the exponent. So we have a 2 here and that invisible 1 here. 2 minus 1 is going to be 1. So we'll just have an x to the first power. Same concept here. We have the same variable, different exponents. I'm just looking at my exponents. 2 minus 1 is going to be a 1. So we have y to the first power as well. Let's bring down our operation. Our subtraction sign is over here. We're going to do 12 divided by 6, which is 2. We see an x to the first power here, x to the first power here. It's a match. See, dividing monomials or dividing these, how we see it, is really like a matching game. All right, so I'm going to cross that out. That divides to 1. Then we have a 3 here and a 1 here, that invisible 1. So 3 minus 1 is going to be a 2. So we should have a y squared. I'm going to bring down my other operation sign. This time is going to be a plus, and then all I'm doing is dividing this. Again, we have the same thing. We have a numerator and denominator that matches. So I'm going to cross that out. That's also going to be divided to 1. Now you could write the 1. You don't have to. Again, in this case, you don't have to really write the 1 because there's other variables and stuff that's there. Actually, I'll write it there for good measure. And again, we have an x squared divided by x. We did that here. And that's going to just be x. And then we have a y to the first power here, and we have a y to the first power here. Again, another match. Our matches, we know that we could just cross that out. Okay? So this is going to be our final answer. And there we have it. I'm going to speed through 6 and 7. You're still going to see me do the steps, but I'm going to speed through it just in case anyone was wondering. So let's go. So when you're a little bit more proficient or aware of what the GCF, at least what the coefficients are, this is what it would look like. So here we could not include R in the GCF because R, although it's included in two of our terms, it's not included here. So we would not be able to add it. I'm going to resume the speed up. Okay, so here are all of our questions done using the same steps over and over. And again, the more familiar you are with your multiplication tables and how to multiply and divide monomials, the easier this would be. If you guys want to see this page and get a little bit more practice with it, you can actually go check the shared Google Drive that I'm going to leave in the description box below. If you guys have any other topics that you guys want me to cover, or you have a question on this, or you need help, please let me know in the comments below. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.